It really is a story of almost inhuman patience, of ice-cold calculation. It's about a single moment, a single breath that changes absolutely everything. Today, we're stepping into the lonely and incredibly lethal world of the World War II sniper.
Okay, so picture this. It's mid-August 1943. We're on the Donetsk front in eastern Ukraine. The German troops are dug in, but they are in a world of hurt. They've got no air support, and bearing down on them are 3 Soviet T-34s. I mean, these things are just steel titans, rumbling forward with a whole lot of infantry right behind them. And against all of that, the Germans have one Austrian sniper. He's just 19 years old, and all he's got is a bolt-action rifle. The lead tank clanks to a stop. The tension, you can't even imagine it. And then suddenly, the tank's hatch creaks open, maybe 10 inches, and a head pops out, binoculars up, scanning the field. This is it. This is the moment. Young Josef Sepp Allerberger puts his scope right on that Soviet tanker's head from 500 feet away, and he squeezes the trigger. One shot. A splash of blood hits the inside of the hatch, and the commander just disappears back inside the tank. That one bullet, that single action, throws the entire Soviet attack into absolute chaos. The other tanks fire a few wild shots, totally confused, and then they pull back, leaving their infantry completely exposed. The attack is shattered.
And that right there, what Allerberger just did, that is a perfect example of a force multiplier. See, that's the real job of a sniper. It's not just about racking up a high body count, even though those numbers can be staggering. It's about psychological warfare. It's about taking out the most important targets, commanders, radio operators, machine gun teams, and with one single, perfectly placed shot, completely changing the direction of a battle.
So it really makes you wonder, who were these lone marksmen? Who were these people who could hold so much power on the battlefield, turning the tide with just their skill and their nerve?
Well, let's meet some of them. Let's look at a few of the legendary figures who basically wrote the book on sniping, especially on the brutal, sprawling Eastern Front.
Let's start with a number, 505. That is the number of confirmed kills for Finland's Simo Häyhä. The Soviets gave him a nickname, White Death. He did all of this during the short winter war between 1939 and 1940. He literally became a ghost in the snow, an absolute terror for the Red Army soldiers.
And for some reason, the Austrians were especially good at this. This guy is Matthias Hetzenauer, the highest-scoring Axis sniper of the entire war. He and Sepp Allerberger, the kid from our opening story, were both Austrians in the same division. Together, they were credited with over 600 kills. Just incredible.
And then there's Lyudmila Pavlichenko, better known as Lady Death. She was a university history student who decided to volunteer for the Red Army, and she ended up becoming the most successful female sniper in all of history. Get this, among her 309 confirmed kills were 36 enemy snipers. She wasn't just a sniper, she was a sniper hunter.
So we've met some of the legends, but how on earth do they do it? Let's dig into the tools, the tactics, and the mindset that made them so terrifyingly effective.
Well, it often came down to the rifle. On the German side, you had the Mauser K98K. It was a masterpiece of precise engineering, usually fitted with a powerful 6x scope. But the Soviets had the Mosin Nagant, a rugged, almost crude weapon that was famous for one thing: it just worked. And this difference tells you everything you need to know about the Eastern Front. The Mauser's precise engineering meant its moving parts could freeze solid in -40-degree weather. The Mosin Nagant, with its looser parts and better cold-weather lubricants, just kept on firing. In fact, a lot of German snipers, Allerberger included, actually preferred to use captured Mosin Nagants for that exact reason.
And some guys, like the legendary White Death, Simo Häyhä, just gave up on scopes entirely. He said they fogged up in the cold, they limited his field of view, and most importantly, a little glint of sunlight off the lens could be a death sentence, giving away his position. To stay hidden, he would even hold snow in his mouth to stop his breath from creating steam in the freezing air. I mean, that is just an unbelievable level of skill and discipline. You see, the best snipers were absolute masters of deception. They'd use dummies, a helmet on a stick, or sometimes more complicated figures on ropes, just to draw enemy fire. They were experts in camouflage. Allerberger famously took an old umbrella, stripped it down to the wireframe, and wove local plants into it to create a portable hiding spot. And survival was everything. A smart sniper always had multiple firing positions ready to go, and critically, they had hidden escape routes planned out in advance. They had to master what the Germans called the Hasensprung, the rabbit jump, a terrifying zigzagging sprint from one hiding spot to the next while bullets are flying. If you were inexperienced, you were dead. Simple as that.
Because for every sniper, there was a counter-sniper.
This was the ultimate deadly duel, a high-stakes game of cat and mouse where the psychological pressure was just immense, and a single mistake was your last. And falling into enemy hands, that was a fate you had to avoid at all costs. On the Eastern Front, if a sniper was captured, it didn't mean a POW camp. It meant interrogation, torture, and a really brutal death. And that knowledge was always in the back of their minds, with every single move they made.
Let's go back to Sepp Allerberger for a story that is just wow. His whole unit was pinned down. Guys were dropping from head and chest shots, coming from an enemy they couldn't even see. It was obvious they were up against a whole squad of snipers hidden in the woods. So what does he do? First, deception. He gets his buddies to raise up some dummies. When the Soviets take the bait and fire, he doesn't look for the muzzle flash. No, he watches the high tree branches for the subtle sway caused by the pressure wave from their rifles. Genius. Then, he has his own machine gunners open up to create a ton of noise. And inside those loud bursts, he takes his shots, one by one. The Soviet snipers, they said, fell from the trees like sacks. In just 1 hour, he took out 18 of them.
But here's the twist. When the Germans finally advanced into the woods, they made a surprising discovery. Many of the snipers Allerberger had just killed were women. Now that might have been a shock to those German soldiers, but it was actually part of a major Soviet strategy. The USSR trained over 2,000 female snipers during the war, women just like Lyudmila Pavlichenko, who were incredibly skilled, patient, and fiercely determined to defend their homeland.
So what happens when the shooting finally stops? For these individuals, the war never really left them. It shaped the rest of their lives and sent them down some profoundly different paths.
I mean, just look at how different their post-war lives were. Lyudmila Pavlichenko, Lady Death, she toured the Allied countries, she met President Roosevelt, and she became a historian and an advocate for peace. Simo Häyhä, the White Death, he just went home and became a successful moose hunter. Vasily Zaitsev, the famous hero of Stalingrad, he became a factory director. For the Austrians, though, it was a lot tougher. Hätzenauer was captured and spent 5 brutal years in a Soviet labor camp, while Allerberger had to make a harrowing escape just to get back home.
You know, after all the terror, the legends, the 505 kills, Simo Häyhä's explanation for his almost supernatural skill was, well, it was shockingly humble. Somebody asked him how he got to be such an incredible shot. His answer was just one word: practice. It just boils this whole deadly, complicated craft down to its simplest, most powerful core: dedication.
So what do we make of these people in the end? Are they heroes who saved countless lives on their own side? Or are they just cold-blooded killers defined by a gruesome number? The answer, I think, is as complicated and as uncomfortable as war itself. The legacy of the sniper is precise, it's focused, and it remains deeply, deeply unsettling.